Welcome to MasteringX eBusiness lecture series. From this episode, we are talking about the difference between the two terms eBusiness and eCommerce. Most of the people use these two terms, electronic commerce and electronic business, interchangeably. Actually, each of them got two distinctive features. Before that, let's talk about the history of electronic businesses and electronic commerce. In the early 60s, the beginning of 60s, there was a technique called as EDIs, which means Electronic Data Interchange. EDIs allowed companies to process routine business transactions, such like orders and invoices, more rapidly, more accurately, and more efficiently than they could do through conventional methods of transactions. And for decades, banks have been using something called EFTs, electronic fund transfers, also known as wire transfers. So this EFT is the term used for EDI that involves the transfer of funds between financial institutions over the private communication networks. And that's how the concepts of e-business and e-commerce have started up. Here you can see EDIs have a relationship with the e-business concept and EFT have a relationship with the e-commerce concept. But when internet has entered into the scene, everything was changed, and that's what we are going to discuss all through this lecture series. Internet began to advance in popularity among the general public in early 90s. But it took some more years to develop the rapid accessibility and the persistent connection to the internet, and also the security layout. Now you have seen as HTTPS and SSL. But anyway, after the infrastructure was well established, it made a huge impact to the businesses and their commercial transactions. Okay, now let's go back to our original question. What is the difference between e-business and e-commerce? If someone asks you the difference between these two terms, you can show this Venn diagram. Here you can see e-commerce is just a subset of e-business. E-business have many components and e-commerce is just a one. Just a one as well as a special one. If e-commerce is not existed in the e-business, most probably the e-business will not be existed in there. To understand this difference perfectly, we have to list down all the distinctive features of both e-commerce and e-business. So in this table, the left side column displays all the distinctive features in e-commerce, and in the right side column, it presents all the distinctive and related features of the e-business. Now let's take the first one. It says e-commerce involves commercial transactions done over the internet. So here the e-commerce is doing commercial transactions. Now let's take the e-business one. It says e-business is conduct of business processes on the internet. Even though both are using the internet, the things they are doing is different. E-commerce is involved in commercial transactions and e-business is conducting business processes. So these commercial transactions might be included in the business processes. Now the second feature. E-commerce is use of electronic transmission medium that caters for buying and selling of products and services. So e-commerce is directly handling buying and selling activities. In addition, e-business also includes the exchange of information directly related to the buying and selling of products. So e-businesses cover up the information exchange part of buying and selling activities. In the third feature, it says, thus those activities which essentially involve monetary transactions are termed as e-commerce. So we got the point. Buying and selling activities means the activities that involves monetary transactions. In the other side, you can see the information exchange activities. Procurement of raw materials or goods, customer education, that means the interaction and communication with the customer, and looking for suppliers, that means supplier handling. Now look at the fourth feature. E-commerce usually requires the use of a website, and that is because if you are performing buying and selling activities, you have to open the door for the public, and the easiest way to do that is using a website. Now let's see what kind of a thing e-businesses are using. E-business involves the use of CRMs, customer relationship management systems, ERPs, enterprise resource planning systems that connects different business processes. So e-businesses are using large and complex systems because they need to handle different business processes. And the next one says e-commerce involves the mandatory use of internet. Definitely e-commerce need internet. And e-business can involve the use of internet, intranet and extranet. Internet is publicly accessible because it is a public network, and intranet is an internal network. Only the people who are authorized within an organization can access it. An extranet is an external network which connects external parties. Only the people who are authorized in the external parties can access it. And why e-businesses are having these two additional networks, intranet and extranet? That is because e-businesses may handle internal business processes and business processes that connects another business party. If the interaction is happening with an employee of the organization, it is using an intranet. And if the interaction is happening with an external party, for example suppliers, it is using an extranet. And if the interaction is happening with a potential customer, we have to use a public network, and that is the internet. Now let's look at the next feature. E-commerce covers outward-facing processes that touch customers, suppliers and external partners. So these processes doesn't include the activities which are happening inside the organization. And what are the processes covered up by the e-businesses? So e-businesses cover up the production, inventory management, risk management, finance and such like internal processes. The next feature says e-commerce is narrower concept and restricted to buying and selling. When compared to that, e-business is a broader concept, and that involves market surveying, supply chain and logistic management and using data mining. So it includes several tasks when compared with the e-commerce. Now the last feature we have listed down here says e-commerce just involves buying and selling of products and services, and that is the part where the monetary transactions are involved in. That is the part where the profits are earned, and that's why e-commerce is directly connected with the buying and selling. And if you look at the e-business statement, it says e-business includes all kind of pre-sale and post-sale efforts. So what are the pre-sale and post-sale activities? Purchasing raw materials, things happening in the production and manufacturing process can be taken as pre-sale activities, and the delivery and responding to a customer inquiry for a purchased product can be taken as post-sale activities. So hope you got the understanding why we are saying e-business and e-commerce are distinctively different two concepts. In our comparison, we said e-business have a much wider scope than the e-commerce, and it is not just buying and selling of products and services, but also communicating with the customers and collaborating with other business partners. When showing the Venn diagram of e-business and e-commerce, I said e-commerce is just a component, a required component of e-business. So what are the other components? So here it displays the few of other components. Collaboration with all the stakeholders of the business. SFA, Salesforce Automation. BI, Business Intelligences. CRM, Customer Relationship Management. SCM, Supply Chain Management. ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. B2B, Business to Business. Hope you got the understanding how much broader and how much complex it goes. This is not the time to discuss about each and every component, and we will do that in another episode. Thank you for watching and stay tuned in with us for more.